I'm Ian Fletcher. A bit about my background. I've got a PhD in biomechanics, but I'm a strength and conditioning coach. Been a strength and conditioning coach for 30 plus years. I think worked out, I wrote my first training program 34 years ago. Jesus Christ. I'm an accredited S&C coach. I'm also a tutor and an assessor for the UKSCA. Worked in elite sport, sub-elite sport, amateur sport, you name it. I've probably worked there. English Institute of Sport, consultancy with England Rugby, Premiership Rugby. Presently working at Championship Club Ampthill, in rugby. So if you want to talk about rugby, well, that'd be even better. What we're looking at here is about force profiling. So what I want you to get out of this session really is, what the hell are we training? Why are we training it? And are we actually even bothering to monitor it? Because if we're not, why are we even training? Are we just making them tired for the sake of it? Okay, so the idea of this is that we're not going to just make them tired for the sake of it. We're going to have a little look at the importance of the force velocity curve, use and misuse, basically explain how it is incorrectly used in virtually every textbook I've ever seen, and then explain how you can use the force velocity curve. What adaptations are you actually trying to cause in the gym? And then the big bit, the practical, how are we going to measure that without 150 grand's worth of biomechanics equipment, which is in your lab, which you don't have access for, and you've got 30 people that you need to actually test in half an hour. Okay, that's what we're going to look at. So the first thing, little bit of a chat so that everyone's singing off the same hymn sheet. You understand what I'm talking about in terms of what the force velocity curve is. Right, so this is what you have probably seen in a textbook. This nice shaped curve here with strength up the top, speed down the bottom, power in the middle. Okay. Right, there's a real problem with that as a curve. Okay, it's all based on work from the 1930s to the 1950s that was on one single muscle fibre. Okay, and the interesting thing is that muscle fibre was only allowed to work concentrically. They actually, in the equations, got rid of all the eccentric component, the stretch and recoil, because it mucked up the equation. And from that, every S&C textbook has that. Well done. So it doesn't explain the elastic component of the muscular tendinous unit, and it doesn't even fit the whole way that the muscular tendinous unit works. It's concentric only. So useful? Probably not. That's what it actually looks like. So what you have is our classical concentric component there, but we've added in the eccentric component. So we've actually added in the stretch recoil part of it. So the whole of it looks at eccentric, isometric, concentric, stretch shortening cycle, high force and high velocity. So now we're actually talking about real performance. Okay? So unless we're modelling the whole of that curve, we're not really looking at the performance of an athlete. Okay? So hopefully that sort of makes sense. Isometric in the middle, concentric down here, high concentric velocities, very little force, high concentric forces, very little velocity, and then eccentric, it's the opposite way round. High eccentric forces have high velocities, low eccentric forces have low velocities. So it sort of like flips itself around. Okay, so hopefully that sort of makes sense. As I say, I don't want to make this 101 biomechanics. It's just so we know when we're getting to do the practical why we're doing different measurements at different velocities. Okay, so it's not just about max force, maybe. do we need to consider some other things? Do we need to consider impulse? Do we need to consider rate of force development? Do we need to consider power? You see these things bandied about all over the place. Power's the most important thing. No, rate of force development is the most important thing. No, max force is the most important thing. Well, let's actually have a little critique of all of these things to see, well, what should we be measuring? So force, you can quantify it. Force equals mass times acceleration. Switch it all around. Acceleration equals force divided by mass. Yeah? So, if you don't change somebody's mass and you make them more forceful, what happens to their acceleration? Yeah, hopefully they accelerate harder. Is acceleration important? It's everything. No, acceleration doesn't even depend on the sport. If I walk, I decelerate, reaccelerate, decelerate, reaccelerate. All human movement is a series of accelerations. And when I mean acceleration, it might be deceleration. Okay? So force has to be integral with human movement. If it's not, Newton's wrong and we rewrite physics. Okay? But it has to have some characteristics. It has to have a direction, it has to have a magnitude, a size, and it has to have a point of application. So if we're going to measure force, we need to think about that. We get a magnitude, but which way are we actually directing it? Okay, is it vertical? Is it horizontal? Is it a bit of both? The point of application. Where are we actually hitting the ground if it's running, jumping-based sport in order to actually get the force to actually do what we need it to do and actually cause movement? Okay. Other concepts, rate of force development. So force divided by time. It's become very, very popular. It's not just how much force do you produce, it's how quickly do you produce this force. So you get this sort of a classical curve, force on the vertical, time on the horizontal, and you pick a time integral. In this case, 200 milliseconds. How much force do I produce in 200 milliseconds? If I produce more force in 200 milliseconds than the person next to me, I'll run faster and jump higher than them. Brilliant, great. Okay. And measuring rate of force development is nice and easy, isn't it? Okay, if you've got force plates and you've got an isometric rig and you've got 100 grand and unlimited time, brilliant, I can measure rate of force development. And it's still not reliably done, even if I've got all that. Really difficult thing to measure. As a concept, yeah, maybe. Right, this is where the bread and butter is. This is real movement, impulse. So impulse is the area under the curve. So our force time curve, the area under it, tells us what our impulse is. Impulse is force times time. Okay? Now, Newton's second law is the law of acceleration. So basically, impulse is acceleration. If you get a bigger impulse, you will accelerate quicker. Now, if I go back to our rate of force development curve, it's interesting. This is where people sort of don't understand biomechanics. They go, oh, it's the steepness of the curve. No, it's the area under the curve. The impulse that's actually key. So it's not actually rate of force development that's a meaningful measure. It's impulse. Okay. Fine. Importance of acceleration. I've already said that. It's basically its movement. So we come down to power. Okay, so power is work divided by time, or force times distance divided by time. It's the same thing. Force times velocity. So if you think as an S&C coach, more force, more velocity, brilliant, power. Overall that, loving that, but this is what you get. Okay, look in the textbooks. Peak power's king. Okay, so here's our concentric only force curve, because you can only measure power concentrically. You can't measure it eccentrically. So half of the way we behave, decelerate, is missed if you're measuring power. And you stick it medium force, medium velocity. That's peak power. Now, it's only measured concentrically. So that's power, that's force, that's velocity. What happens if you increase force to velocity? Concentrically. Goes down. What's happened to your power? It's the same. So, I know, let's increase velocity. What happens to force? Goes down, because it's concentric only. What's happened to my power? Nothing. It's gobbledygook. It's pseudoscience. It's not science. Power, yeah. Real issues if you're measuring power. If I say to my athlete, be more powerful, that's all cool, because all they know is, you mean move quicker? Yeah, power, that's fine. But if you're actually getting an app or using a force plate to measure power, maybe it's a problem. Now, mean power might be useful if you're a cycler or a rower. So if you think about it, medium force, medium velocity, cycling or rowing, yeah, that sounds all right. That'll work for me. But I don't want medium force and I don't want medium velocity for my rugby players or my footballers or my sprinters. I want high velocity and high force. Well, power doesn't fit around that. Doesn't correspond that well with a lot of athletic performance. Interestingly, impulse has a perfect correlation because impulse is what causes acceleration. It's the cause. So if we're not measuring impulse, it's a problem. Right, as I say, I'm going through this as quick as possible. What do we actually want to achieve as an S&C coach? We want to get people to move more quickly, yeah? That's our job. Get from A to B quicker. Get your foot in the sand for less amount of time when you're changing direction or whatever it is you're doing. Okay. Right. So short ground contact times win the race. So here's a quick example of what I mean when we're actually doing it wrong. Okay, so if you're 85 kilograms, the amount of impulse needed to jump half a metre in the air is around about 450 newtons, give or take, okay? So athlete A and athlete B both can jump 50 centimetres. But who's the better athlete? So athlete A's 450 newton seconds of impulse is 400 newtons times 1.13 seconds. That's how long they have to produce force into the ground to jump their 50 centimetres. Athlete B, still 450 newton seconds, still only going to jump 50 centimetres, but doubles the amount of force. So what happens to the time? Half the time. So if you want to move quickly, produce big forces, it means you only need to produce that force for a short time. So it's sort of the wrong way round. We think about moving quickly, just move quickly. No, produce a big force so you can move quickly. Right. So back to the curve. So hopefully, what happened there? Remember, this whole curve looks at eccentric, isometric, concentric, stretch shortening cycle, high force, and high velocity. So we want to map the whole thing to say, why does that sprinter run quicker than that sprinter? Okay, so this is what you actually need to do. Get incremental loads from body weight to max concentric, isometric, and eccentric loads with a fast and a slow stretch shortening cycle. Use force plates. Right. That takes about an hour and a half per person, at least. And if you've only got one force plate and you've got a squad of 30, do the maths. You ain't ever going to do it. So we need to do something that is going to maybe estimate these things nice and easily, but accurately, so that we can actually monitor training. Remember, it's all about impulse. Force times time. Therefore, if you take less time to complete a task, you must have produced more force. Okay? That's the basic physics. So time is our ultimate measure of performance. So we're going to do some back squats, some counter movement jumps, some drop jumps. So if I lift 200 kilo back squat, and in 6 months' time, I've done a training program, I come back and I lift it again, but I lift it quicker, I will have produced more force. I have to. Otherwise, I can't accelerate the load as quickly. Okay. So how we can do this? We're going to use an app. So you can get phone apps for like £5. So we're going to use the MyJump app, but we're going to not use it to just measure jump height. We're going to use it as a timing measure. Okay, so you're going to all have a little play with this in a second. You can get a sampling rate, anything from 60 to 240 hertz. So 240 hertz is 240 pieces of information per second. I used to have to get a camera for 10 grand to do 240 frames per second. It's now a £5 app. That's insane. Okay? Everyone can get it on their phone. The whole squad can do it. Pair them up, record each other, download it, send it through to me. We're all finished in half an hour. Brilliant. Okay? It is a valid and reliable system for measuring time, because that's all I need. Okay? Now, the actual app says it measures vertical and horizontal jumps. Yeah. It says it measures asymmetry. Yeah. It also says it measures force velocity. It doesn't measure force velocity. It really doesn't. They do one counter movement jump, and apparently you can measure the whole force velocity curve off one counter movement jump. No, you can't. Okay? So I'm not worrying about any of those bits that it says it does. I'm using it as a timing device. If you've got a different app that you know is accurate, use that. Doesn't have to. I'm not saying it's got to be a MyJump 2 that we're doing. So this is the important bit, what you actually need you guys to do. We're going to be looking at adaptations to that force velocity curve. So we're going to look at strength, speed, and speed strength. So strength, how much force can you produce? Strength speed, slow stretch shortening cycle force, and then speed strength, fast stretch shortening cycle force. So that hopefully this is what we get. Strength, the middle of the force velocity curve. Strength speed, we start to come out slow eccentrics, slow concentrics, and then speed strength, fast eccentrics, fast concentrics. Hence, the blue, slow stretch shortening cycle, is going to be a counter movement jump, and then drop jump for the fast stretch shortening cycles. So if we get those three things linked together, then hopefully we can map the whole of this curve on a £5 app. Well, let's find out. So we're going to do a back squat. I am not going to tell you how to do a back squat. You fill your boots. What we need to do is get to a reasonably heavy load. When I use this with my guys, they're 90% weak, and they all lift at 90% of their 1 RM. And I don't need to change that 90%, because in 3 months' time, it's still going to be the same load. And the idea is, if they lift it quicker, I've got them stronger. Do a counter movement jump. Now I've done hands on hips, but I don't actually care. If you decide to use arms, but always do it the same way. And then drop jump from a height that you're happy to do. Again, I've done hands on hips, but it doesn't matter. If they want to use arms, let them use arms. Okay? Right. So, what we have here is iPad and instructions. So what I suggest is we've got sort of like 2 groups of 3. Grab yourself an iPad, grab yourself the instructions. It is fairly straightforward, but let's see how you go. Do the squats first, then the counter movement jump, and then the drop jump last. In terms of the height that you decide to go on the drop jump, up to you. Okay? You've got a 15-inch box, 30-inch box, 7-inch box. You will have to convert it into centimetres for the app, times 2.54. Okay, just in case you're going, what? Yeah, conversion table, that'll do it. Okay, so have a look at the instructions there. Grab yourselves an app. The one thing I should say, if you're looking for the camera, it's on the corner where there's a little flicky bit, which is an absolute pain in the arse to sort of use. Okay, so have a little play. You'll need at least one person to do all three things. If you all want to do it, that's also fine, because it honestly doesn't take very long. You might need a bit of time to get them warmed up enough to actually lift fairly heavy. Look, if you're not going to get to 90% on a Sunday, this is a practice, so you get an idea of how to use the app and what it actually means. So just get something that you go, right, I can feel this. If you can jump with it, it's too light. Yeah? Okay? So have a little go, and then myself and Bridget will be floating around to advise with you doing that. Okay? Let's have a little go. In fact, I will. Yeah, they're all the same. And it's actually got a little thing on the second sheet to actually jot down what you need to jot down. And hopefully it's fairly straightforward. Just follow the instructions as are, and you should be okay, he says with complete surety. Okay, and I'm going to put it up on here. Yeah, so I'd say if you start filming, then at least you'll get a chance to have a little look at the filming and stuff like that. And again, how heavy you go, don't go crazy with it, but you'll see what I mean. Yeah, it'll take a little bit of time for you to get your head around the instructions, because you have to follow them exactly as they are. And ignore what it says on the app, because I'm using it as a timing device. Okay?
How long does this usually take you to do then once you know exactly what you're doing?
Well, literally, the guys, if I've got 20 guys in the gym, it takes them half an hour to do this, because they're using it as part of their training. So basically, they're doing it as part of their training. Oh, we're lifting 90% this week. Right, everyone record, jot it down, send it through to me, I'm done. Because when you see it, it's that easy to use. Yeah? All right, do some counter movement jumps at the end, some drop jumps at the end, before we go out onto the pitch or whatever we're going to do. Done.
How long did it take you to analyse that?
No time at all, because I've got it on an Excel spreadsheet. Right. So literally, I'll put it on an Excel spreadsheet, and it goes bing, 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 and then all I'm doing is tracking it over time. Right. So it takes,
you don't use the readout in the app?
No, I'm taking the timing from the app, stick it in my Excel spreadsheet. It will tell me how high they jump, which is useful. And some bits in there that are useful, like the reactive strength index, which is useful. So you'll see some of the stuff I'm taking, and some of it. No, I trust their output as a timing device. Yeah, you scroll across, and then you go arrow, arrow, arrow across. So again, have a little play with it, so you understand the way it works.
If you did this with your team, would you do like, let's say you did one RM testing like the beginning of a semester or whatever, time period, then every time it'd just be 9% of that.
Yeah, so basically, and until the point, particularly if it's development athletes, and they're getting a 1 RM that's increasing every week, then I might need to adjust that 90%. But to be honest, let's say they're lifting 100, and you look at it and go, right, it's 3 reps, you have shifted that quickly. Next time we do this, you should be on 110.
Right.
Because I'm monitoring the time it takes you rather than the absolute load.
Got you.
Yeah? Hopefully it'll make sense as you go through it.
On the drop jump.
Yeah, it's everything on the drop jump. Everything on the drop jump. Because I'm using the drop jump app to measure 2 times. Oh, there you go. Poor lad. He's knackered. And again, like you using this, you standardise where you put it, etc., etc. So, you know, you have it on a table that's always exactly the same place, and all of that to standardise it as much as possible.
Yeah, I've used it. I use it with kids.
Yeah.
I've never done it with squatting, so I've just used it for quick movement jump.
Yeah. And it says how high you jump, and that's great.
One of the things that is how accurate am I with
Exactly.
with the takeoff and the landing, and that's
So the interesting, because this is at 60 frames,
Yeah.
which for back squat, counter movement jump is okay.
Yeah.
Drop jump, it's probably not quite fast enough.
I know it's like
But yeah,
it's really, really.
but the newer iPhones are 120 and 240, and then it's running at 240.
Right.
240 is fine for any human movement
Right.
apart from a golf swing.
Right.
So you're sort of going, so
Maybe need to get your phone.
yeah. So that's why I'm saying I'm using the drop jump part of it to get 2 times off it.
I must have read it, but some the counter movement jump, actually, but the reaction, the index one wasn't so accurate.
Exactly, because particularly on the drop jump, because it's 60 frames per second, maybe not. Okay, but newer phones,
It's actually brilliant. I use it in small classes of
Yeah.
kids, and I can control the parents. But then for standing long jump, I just use a meter stick in it. And
well, exactly, because I'm not the standing long jump. When I've
it's
used
so
it, I've gone
complicated.
Really?
I looked at it and I spoke
just
to them.
jump,
Yeah,
stick a stick
yeah,
behind your heel,
yeah.
like we used to 50 years ago, and go right. It was 2 meters 30. Well done. 1 rep is absolutely fine. Normally, it would be, if I was doing this, if they were using 90%, it would probably they'd do three reps at 90%, and I'd literally take the middle rep and just standardise it every single time, or the first rep, or the third rep. As long as I standardise it every single time, over time they're improving or not improving. Okay, if that makes sense. Right, so if you have a look at the instructions on how to get the information out of it, hopefully it should make sense. And if you muck up, guess what? He's got another rep in him. Yeah, that's the hardest thing. No, it's the square in the top, on that side, which is the hardest thing in the world to get out. It's our lab technicians got these to protect it, and then I usually have to get my keys out to leave the bloody thing out. Absolute pain. But there you go. If you manage to do that, well done. Yeah, I told you it was the most painful thing about it was that. There we go. So you're on the drop jump app, yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect. Great.
Try that arrow.
So you can see you can scroll it backwards and forwards for big chunks, and then the arrow goes frame by frame.
Yeah.
And what we're looking for is the first movement down, and then go back 1 frame from the first movement down. That's his top position.
Right, so
If that
from
makes
the very
sense.
start of the movement,
Yeah,
so
and that'll move it frame by frame.
that's him starting to move.
Yeah. So then go back to the point where you're going, okay, the next frame he will start to move.
So you're pretty still there,
Yeah.
and then I think next one along.
So
That
that's,
would be the very start point.
yeah.
So
Then you're going to hit contact.
for this bit, yeah.
So that's contact.
Yeah.
And then box height, just stick 30 in. Because remember, it's on the drop jump app. You're going, what are you talking about? I'm using it to time stuff. Oh, right. So you've done something wrong
We've done,
with that.
yeah, we did it before the other.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd already gone
yeah.
through all that.
So that's okay.
Yeah.
Save it, because you want to go through that video again. So if you find the video,
Back.
vertical jump, or I'm trying to think where it is. Drop jump, or you might have to go through that on the menu, yeah.
See if there's history.
Wherever it's
My
saved it.
jump pad.
History wasn't the drop jump, wasn't it? There's not a
Vertical jump.
yeah.
There we go. So I'm hoping you can get back to the actual video, Because if you can't, you've got to do it again.
But the video should have been recorded just on
It-
the iPad anyway. If you
yeah,
get
it-
videos, it'll be on there,
it-
won't it?
it
And
will
you just
be.
have to just
But to be honest, it might be as easy just say, get him to do it again. That's what I say. This is the practice bit. It's like, okay,
I'm recording that on.
right. Right. Okay, so following the instructions exactly. So
Yeah, it was a bit of that. We used
Yeah.
the drop jump setting because you want
it's
the
to get
different
2
points.
time
Yeah.
points.
Yeah, that makes
That's the thing.
sense.
Yeah. So hopefully that made sense. So it should tell you what you want to take off that. Okay. So the contact time, so where have I written it down? On here. Calculate descent time for best lift, represented by contact time on the app. So 3.05 was his concentric downward. And then calculate the ascent time, flight time on the app. And he's upward, 1.35. It's flight time. Does that make sense? So that's what, ignore the words,
Yeah,
it's the
that's what thrown me for a
timings.
second. Okay, so
Yeah?
that's our
So his
That's
downward
downwards,
was
eccentric.
3.05,
and
upward 1.35. Okay? And then if you want to know the total time, add them together, etc., etc. Jot down what the squat system mass was, what the squat plus mass was. So, yep, so you've got all that. Does that?
yeah, that does
Right.
make sense. So you
Okay.
Then you'd go through incremental loads on all of
If,
these. And you'll
if
get
you
profile
needed to,
based
if
on
you
that.
wanted to,
If you wanted
you could
to
do
as-
that.
as an
But I've gone, look, do you know what? That's 90% of your max lift. That'll tell me strength. 90% will give me an estimate of strength. I don't need to look at 10, 20. Now, if I wanted to do that, I could. Yeah. So if let's say I was looking at a real elite lifter, I might do that. But I'm using this.
full curve.
Exactly. So I'm using this to make a bastardized look at all the ways the muscle will work for a rugby player or a footballer. So your fast and slow stretch shortening cycle, your max force part.
So
Yeah.
this works away from that central point of the isometric. You're trying to
Yeah.
fill in those gaps. at the very
Exactly.
end.
So you're then spreading out from there.
This isn't going to give you such a good idea of what's close to that middle point.
It-
Because of this,
The heavier
movement
you
and the
get,
load, yeah.
the closer. So if you were doing a 1 rep max,
Yeah, true.
you would get a much tighter bubble. But if you've ever done a 1 rep max with somebody, that's 30 to 40 minutes to get a 1 rep max.
On that day, how they're feeling.
Exactly. I'm using this as, like, I'm monitoring them every month. So this is a monitoring tool to see, are you adapting to what I've done the last month? So if I have to do a 1 rep max every month, that's an absolute pain in the arse.
But in their set of 90% for a strength block, you would see change at 90%. So that
Exactly.
the amplitude of the curve has changed.
So suddenly, and then, they've moved it quicker, but what part? Was it the eccentric or the concentric part that's improved? Have both parts improved? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. My one question with the squat would be, obviously, like you're cued to be controlled on the way down.
Yeah,
Like
but
deliberately
as you get
controlled.
stronger, you'll be faster on that descent, even though you're controlled, because you can. So you don't tell the athlete, I want to be really quick down. Just do your thing. As you get stronger, that descent will get quicker with that submaximal load.
You have to almost, yeah,
Yeah?
I get it. It almost requires the person not to be like, I'm a powerlifter, I need to set up slow. And,
Yeah, but
yeah,
if I was using a powerlifter,
you wouldn't, yeah.
I probably wouldn't bother with it because their
For a
1 rep,
team.
their 1 rep max is everything. So it doesn't actually matter how fast or slow they move it. So it's almost like, oh, actually,
It's whatever gets the right done.
Yeah.
Situation. But for like athletes that aren't weight room, as in aren't
exactly.
based, like,
Then I need to know, are they actually adapting? Yes, they're shifting more load, but if they're shifting it slower, they're not actually adapting. They're just learning to lift more slowly because their technique's changing.
okay,
Do
yeah,
you see what I mean?
yeah,
As
that
I need to
answers-
see
that
them
answers
move
the
it
bit
quicker.
That I was,
Yeah.
'cause it's like you
Otherwise,
can
it's
lift
just,
more
yeah,
load
it's,
for
oh, you,
reasons of lifting
you're lifting
load.
heavier because your technique's better. You're able to grind out a load
and your
That's not
experience of that
helping
field.
me for my footballer. Yeah, but for my powerlifter, grind the load out because that's what you need to be able to do because that's your sport.
That definitely
Yeah?
makes sense. It's like a,
Cool. Have a go with the counter movement jump, same instructions, and then we'll have a look at sort of what is this actually telling me, if that makes sense.
Point of clarification.
Yeah.
Squat system mass is athlete and bar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're right.
yeah, so squat system mass is everything they've actually lifted,
So I wasn't sure that.
them as well.
Them as well.
Yeah,
Sorry. We just, I know.
yeah,
what
so,
they're fine.
so actually,
It's just that plus that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and then their mass divided by,
By how?
so yeah, so squat system mass divided by their mass, so that if they got heavier or lighter, it's giving you some ideas. Well, actually, they're still lifting 100 kilos, but they're 5 kilos heavier. They're actually lifting more. They're lifting more. Or they're 5 kilos less. They're lifting less. So you suddenly they're lifting quicker. Yeah, well, there's less system mass because they've lost 10 kilos of weight. All right. Hopefully it makes sense. Right. Hopefully it makes sense. Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah. Have a go with the counter movement jump and the drop jump, and then hopefully we'll pull it all together and make some sense out of the madness. Good, they'll be finishing now. So, the counter movement jump you're still doing on the drop jump app, because I want 2 times. So I'm going to get your flight time and your ground contact time so you can get a reactive strength index out of it. Exactly. So I'm using it as a timing device. And that's what you've got to think. Forget about the words. I'm using the timing device. But that's why, if you've got another timing device, use that.
I guess if you use the super slow-mo on a phone, you just times the frames.
Absolutely. If you know your phone works at 120 frames per second, you could literally
That's a longer way of doing it. Then.
literally go and count the frames. That's nice and easy because you can just slide it and go tick, 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 done. But there's other apps to it.
Yeah, I think some research papers have used that like frames on slow-mo cameras.
Yeah. No, there are. Because I've done it.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm quite impressed how many
Right.
yours.
Oh God. Ooh. Yeah, we'll definitely critique that. Yeah, so counter movement jump, but done on the drop jump app. Okay? Yeah, it will make sense when you see it.
I remember this last year, it was just a confusion.
Yeah,
How can it be a...
yeah, because I'm only looking at it as a time. That's the thing. It's a timing device.
So this is where I always
Yeah.
think this is where can I trust myself there? So he's up, and is he down there or down there?
Okay,
You know,
or is he? I reckon he's down.
down there. Yeah.
Go back one.
I don't.
He's definitely. I reckon he's up there.
He's up there. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
remember, you're the person that's making the decision.
Yeah.
If you in your head are doing that,
Yeah.
if it's 160 frames per second,
And I suppose what I'm doing.
but at 120, one frame is not
Yeah.
going to kill you.
Yeah, I think because that jump there, if I was doing it on my phone, there's a massive gap there. But I thought, well, that's different.
Yeah.
Even if I've done it, it's much more, and I can see that.
Yeah.
Much more accurate. So that's it.
Right.
Enter load 0.
Yeah.
I just do. Yeah.
Now, are you using the counter movement jump?
Yes.
You use the drop jump for everything. So go back, and it's the drop jump app you're using on everything, because the drop jump gives you 2 times,
Right.
and that's what I need. Remember, we're not using the app; we're using the timing device. Okay, so all 3 jumps, well, the 2 jumps and the 1 squat, are all done on the drop jump app. Cool. So I would go lower down, because what you actually need is in fact, for the counter movement jump, you want to actually see his whole body, because you need that initial, that is the start of the downward phase. So as long as you can see sort of his hips and down, then it's all good. Yeah.
And with the distances, as long as the feet are in the frame, everything.
For the counter movement jump, I've got the instructions that have the whole, like shoulders down, because you're going to need to know when he initially does that. With the drop jump, you only need the feet. Yeah. You just jump as high as you can.
So where do you take the bottom one when his hips flex?
Yeah, so basically it's
That first movement.
that or that. That first downward movement is the start of the downward phase. As with the drop jump, all you're looking at is the landing and takeoff. So then you're actually using the app as it was designed to be used.
Yeah.
That one, I'd say. And then it's, what's the last one?
The next time it hits the ground.
That's on the feet, when the feet land.
Oh no, that, back one more. Oh, is it that one or is it the next? Is it that one or that one?
I'd say
So-
that one more.
So this is where, because it's only 60 frames per second,
Yeah.
if you've got a phone that's working at 240, brilliant. It's
Yeah.
going to be more accurate. So that's what you've got to understand. But it's you as the coach deciding that is down.
Yeah.
So next time, that is always down. It's not, is he there? Is he there? No, he's definitely down.
Yeah.
So you're
Use the same
standardising it.
coach,
Yeah.
Then they'll have the same.
Yeah.
opinion.
Would you say, yeah, you could use a phone or a camera that
Absolutely.
has 120
Absolutely, you can.
hertz, or frames per
Yeah.
second, but it's like, would that actually impact I know it's for accuracy.
Drop jump.
Yeah, but
Drop jump, yes. When you do the drop jump, you'll see the drop jump, because there's more velocity involved, it's harder to spot. Counter movement jump, you're probably okay. Squat, definitely okay at 60.
Yeah, just for like a practical application of like,
Yeah.
would it affect your ability to see the smallest worthwhile change?
Well, this is where you've got to think, this isn't research.
Yeah.
This is 30 people in my squad that I am looking at. It's Monday test day or whatever, whenever I do so I'm monitoring changes through the season. Now, I might go super accurate once or twice a year when it's proper test day. But that's not what this is. This is monitoring changes. So you've got to put your hand on your heart, go, there's a tolerance. That tolerance is too big, but that tolerance is giving me information that says you've improved, and you've improved by 5%, or you've only improved by 1%, and I was planning for 5, so what do we need to do to tweak your training? Yeah, it isn't research.
Yeah, but no, from a practical standpoint, I actually think like the accuracy it provides is probably excellent.
It's good enough,
Yeah.
for me.
Do you get them all to record it and then send the recording, or do they?
No, to be honest, I've trained the guys up that they've got it on their phone, and they'll do this because they know what they're doing, and then they'll send it through to me. But to be honest, if I didn't train them up, how onerous is it? Because you can actually just record. You can just record everything, and then, oh shit, I'm going to have to tomorrow look at all of this and bang through. Oh, it's a bit of a pain in the arse.
I mean, I've done this with BTEC students.
Exactly. They can. It doesn't take that long.
Yeah, they can literally, you can learn
Yeah.
in like 5 minutes.
Exactly. It doesn't take them that long, and it is fairly accurate with it. But yeah, if you don't trust your athletes, fine. Literally go and say, when you're ready to do your lift, I'll come and record it. All right, and then the next one, record it. And as long as you know who they all are, it's all on there, and then you just upload it, and away you go. Yeah.
Type in 0.3 again, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Follow the same instructions, and then it's the drop jump to finish.
Jump mass, body mass is just.
Oh, which was? Let me try and remember what it was.
It was just on the thing, and we were all looking at it, going,
Yeah.
surely
So-
then that's just one.
Mass divided by, it shouldn't be mass, height. Height divided by body mass. That should be
Height.
height. Sorry,
Height.
that's a typo. So it's jump height divided by body mass. Don't worry, typo. Yeah, don't worry. It's a typo. Me copying and pasting incorrectly. So again, if they are jumping higher and they got heavier, or they're jumping the same height but they've got heavier, they've actually improved.
And height in
And-
meters rather than centimeters.
Yeah, just yeah.
That's your first jump, isn't it?
It will say on the paper.
Yeah, we
Worse than my students, just keep pressing buttons until you get the right answer.
We were talking. So now we've got this information. So we've obviously got flight time and contraction time. The contraction time goes into
So,
there.
so
RSI is that
jump height, or record jump contraction time represented by contact time on the app. Okay, so the contact time on the app is actually your contraction time. Okay,
So 0.933. Cool.
and then
Flight time is
then reactive strength index, it records it, so you can just jot that down.
you want the height.
And then you want the jump height, because the athletes want to know the jump height.
yeah.
Okay.
Movement mass. Which one's that bit?
And then body mass.
That should actually say jump height. So it's counter movement height
Ah.
divided by body mass. So again, I'm tracking. He's got heavier, but not jumped and jumped the same. Actually, he's improved.
Yeah.
Or he's got lighter and jumped the same. He's got worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then same with the drop jump. But now you can use the drop jump app for what it was actually designed for. Probably easier.
That would be 28. 26 divided by 102.
Yeah. You can work that out. I would say everyone's got the phones. Well, that's what
Put mine over there.
calculator on.
Yeah, go.
And then pick whatever height you want to go off, and we'll have a chat about sort of like jump height and things like that from there.
Does the long jump app allow you to go up to, was it 240?
Yeah, it should. Well,
If you're-
it should.
if
If your phone runs at that hertz,
Yeah.
it will run at that.
Right.
If that makes
Yeah, yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
That does make sense.
But to be honest, 60, plenty enough for most movements.
Yeah.
Right.
This is correct or not to your
Of course it is.
Don't know what's
Right.
amazing technology. I'm terrible
Right.
at it, honestly.
0.37. Right. 0.6. 0.28. So quicker than 0.7, which it should be. RSI, much higher than counter movement RSI. So that is meaningful. It's the right pattern.
Right.
Now, yeah, you're one of my athletes. This is your training. You do squats and you do counter movement jumps. You do drop jumps every week with me. So it's going to be reliable because they're doing it. All I'm doing is saying, right, go hard. Yeah, cool. Right. They're going to take a second, and then we're going to have a little look on the screen. What the hell does any of this even mean?
Yeah.
You know, what's it actually telling me? Oh, great, I've got a load of figures.
So when I'm using it with the kids, obviously I just use it for
Yeah, just for jump height.
For jump height, and that just tells me how strong are your legs. And
Exactly.
that's what I look at for. I use it to
And-
take
And the thing is, with children, it might be, that's enough. That's all I need is to know if you're improving X, you must have got stronger. Great. But this is now starting to map these slow movements with big forces, medium movements with force, and then the drop jump, really fast movements with force. To really start looking at, for somebody that needs to use all of those things in their sport, where's your weakness? Or am I just making you train all of this all the time when actually, look, you're stupid strong, I don't need to concentrate on that. Or your drop jump isn't going very well. Why? Well, because your strength is bloody this poor. That's why. But this is mapping it so that I can actually look along the whole of that year. Okay, I've decided I need to make you stronger. Well, am I measuring that? Or am I just measuring how much you lift? Well, your technique changes. You start to grind out reps with a slow velocity. Well, if it's a slower velocity, you're taking longer to generate impulse. That means you're actually not creating more force. You're just getting used to lifting slow. But that's not helping me. Yeah? So that's why we're getting the ideas from. But when we look at the results I've got from one athlete, it might make more sense, hopefully.
As long as, so stand long jump, height one, and then I do a 20 metre, 10 metre chain of legs and 5 metre sprint, and that can show, and I give the parents saying this is where they are.
And if you're monitoring that and you understand those changes are going to be positive, great. But what you won't be looking at is that force velocity curve throughout the whole of the system. So you're estimating some stuff.
So I don't need to go into them.
You've got a slow stretch shortening cycle, you've got a fast stretch shortening cycle in there. So you're estimating bits. What you're not estimating is the strength part. You're making guesses that you're not jumping very high because you're not strong enough. Well, maybe you can do some lifting of something to look at that force bit as well. But we'll have a chat about that when we have a look on this. Yeah.
The last batch was like the first batch testing after pre-season.
Yeah.
And that the RSI, the box jumps were poor.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the head said, look, this is and that's my fault. We need much more.
Well, and that's the thing. It's do they need more plyometric or do they need more strength to stiffen?
Yeah.
Is that's what's stopping them being bouncy? Is that they're collapsing because they're weak?
Yeah.
Well, maybe this would tell you that. So.
You just switch this off just now?
Yeah, just I think it's up at the top. There should be a button that switches off. If you guys have got all of that, let's have a little look. This is an athlete that I did. Literally last week. He's a scholar athlete at the university. I've never dealt with him at all. So literally, this is hot off the press for him as a footballer. And let's see if this sort of correlates and makes sense with what you've just looked at. So he's a footballer. So straight away, I've got some ideas of what he may or may not be able to do. He's 75 kilos. So he's not particularly light, not particularly heavy. The squat mass he could lift was 110 because he was telling me that was 90%. Now, I've not worked with him, so I don't know if that's his true 90%. Eyeballing it, the third rep was a bit of a... So he was there or thereabouts 90%. It certainly wasn't lighter than 90%. Okay? So system mass, 185. Normalised squat divided by body mass gives me 2.467. So that's important if it's a strength to weight ratio sport. He's a footballer. If I decide he's weak and I stick him in the gym and he sticks 10 kilos on himself, the coach isn't going to be happy with me. Unless his squat goes through the roof so he can handle the increase in mass, if that makes sense, yeah? Right. If we look at his descent and ascent time, 1.733 on the way down, 1.7 on the way up. So, again, I've not worked with him before. What would you normally expect on the way down compared to the way up in terms of velocity? Slower on the way down because we control it on the way down, and then you try and be fast on the way up. He's just a little bit faster. So, if we're thinking about he's lifting heavy, what happens to that concentric versus eccentric when you start to lift heavy? It starts to even out. So that is telling me he wasn't far off a pretty heavy lift. Because when it's light, you control it on the way down and smash it on the way up. When it gets heavy, you control it on the way down and on the way out. So actually, he's lifting in his strength regime. Just by eyeballing it, I know that. And I know what his total time is. Great. Now, good, bad, or indifferent, we can have a chat about that in a second. His counter movement jump, he jumped 46.6 centimetres. That's pretty bouncy, hands on hips. Yeah, it's quite explosive. got his height divided by body mass in there. And by the way, because I've got this on an Excel spreadsheet, guess what? I just have to put the figures in. It does it all automatically for me. It's nice and easy. Contraction time for the whole of the down and up, nearly a second, 0.967. Yeah? Counter movement, reactive strength index, 0.64. Okay, fine. That's what he's done. When we look at the drop jump, I've got him to drop off 20 centimetres. Now, it might have been that's too low, and we'll see why that might be too low, because his drop jump height is nearly 40 centimetres. As I say, first time I've dealt with the athlete, so I didn't know how high to drop him off. Okay. Again, drop height divided by body mass, so I can just track his body mass normalised. Drop jump contact time, so that land and takeoff, 0.267. Right. So looking at it, is he going faster than his counter movement jump? Yeah, because that's nearly a second. Well, thank God for that. It means that I've got a slow stretch shortening cycle and a faster stretch shortening cycle. Is it a true fast stretch shortening cycle? Yeah, so you look in the textbooks, depending on which one you're looking at, it's 0.25 or 0.2. Okay, right, he's not quite there. Well, maybe we can have a look at why that is. His reactive strength index, 2.12. Much, much higher than the counter movement jump. It should be, because the contact time is so much quicker. Yep. So that, again, is something to eyeball. Have we actually got a difference in there? Okay, fine. So I'm happy. The data I've collected has told me, yes, he's lifting in the strength area. The counter movement jump, yeah, that looks normal. The drop jump, yeah, looks normal, little bits on the slow side. Right. Now I need to plan about this guy and fix him, because he's got to write a program for him now. So, the thing that's screaming to me is this. Drop jump contact time. He's only off 20 centimetres. 20 centimetres, he should be banging that at about 0.15. He should be absolutely killing that. But it's a 75, he's 22 years old, he's 75 kilos, semi-pro footballer, a 110 squat. When my daughter was 17 and she's 57 kilos, she was lifting 110 kilo squat, full range. That's pretty ropey. So think about what's happening. His ground contact time's too long. So what do I need to do to fix that? Do more plyometrics. No, he can't bounce. He's having to collapse to re-establish that because he's not strong enough. So to fix his ground contact time for his fast stretch shortening cycle, I need to fix his strength. Does that sort of make sense? Now, those are the sorts of things you'll be looking at.
So if his squat was decent, 140, yeah, but it's still at that contact time, you'd be thinking.
Then I'd be going, he's just not reactive enough. Maybe he doesn't do, let's have a chat. Have you ever done anything like that? Oh, I've never done plyometrics in my life. Right, okay. I now need to concentrate on your plyos to actually get that speed. Yeah? Okay. Basically, next month, he'll come in and we'll do the same thing. Literally exactly what you've done. Just as part of that training session, he'll squat, he'll jump, he'll do his jumps, 20 minutes, if that, and then carry on with the training. Doesn't interrupt. We're going to do a testing day. Well, I've missed a day's training because I'm testing. It's just part of training. And if I get that for a whole 12 months, I will have some data to really be able to monitor and adapt and actually change training. some sort of meaningful way.
Rather than doing all three, say if someone was really big, you could do like 1 week strength, next week you'll do the next jump.
It's your program. If you want to do that, because then it even less eats into what you're doing, absolutely fine. So you warm up and then you do one of those. Great. And as long as you do that every single time, then everything's going to be reliable. Okay? That sort of makes sense. And tell me, does this sort of make sense in terms of tracking something meaningful? Now, I've done this before where they've said, oh, could we work out force from there? Yeah, you could. You could do inverse mechanics. If you're into biomechanics, inverse mechanics, because you've got time, you can actually work out velocity, which means you can work out acceleration, which means you can work out force. Great. Why bother? Time is the most important thing, because if you decrease the time, the impulse goes up. So, this 110 kilos, he's going to lift 110 next time. But if these times go down, he's got stronger because he can move the load quicker. If this jump height stays the same, but he did it quicker, he's got stronger in a slow stretch shortening cycle. We've improved his performance. If this jump height stays the same, but his ground contact time decreases, he's moved his mass quicker. Therefore, he's created more impulse, or he's created impulse more quickly. Therefore, he's created more force in a fast stretch shortening cycle. So it gives me more than just how high did you jump? You jumped higher, you must have improved performance. Well, what do you reckon happens if he improves his jump height, but he's even slower? So his RSA stays 0.64. I've not actually improved his performance. He's jumped higher because he's taking longer to create impulse. Well, Christ, if I'm longer to jump higher, that's not improving performance. So my RSI has to stay the same or get better to say that I'm actually improving performance. Right. And then the last little bit. Oh, 1 minute. Ding, 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 ding. Right. Have I missed anything in my testing? I've made them squat, I've made them do a counter movement jump, and I've made them do a drop jump. So now I know everything about their performance. Really? I've mapped the curve. Squatting, counter movement jump, drop jump. I've mapped the curve, or at least estimated the curve. So I'm looking at adaptation. Do I know they're a better runner? No. So I need somewhere the sports technique. Has any of this affected what I actually need to affect, which is how fast they run or how high they jump because they're a basketball player? So if I'm not monitoring that regularly, this is all gobbledygook. But if all I'm doing is measuring how fast they run 20 meters and they're not getting faster, I don't know why. This is telling me why they're not getting faster or why they are getting faster. That makes sense? So always keep an eye on the true measure of performance, which is them actually playing their sport or something that is directly linked to their sport. Yeah? This is just monitoring adaptation through your resistance training. Cool. Whew. I told you I'd get this done reasonably quickly. Any questions on this, guys? And I say, feedback, because we want to run, I've written a whole weekend, a 2-day workshop looking at this stuff to really dig in deep through the testing and then, okay, how do you train strength? How do you train strength speed? How do you train speed strength? So then it's great, I've got all this. They're really crap at speed strength. How do I train it? So that's nugget of the workshop to actually go through that and say, well, you've got all this data, now what are we going to do with it?
You said that the slope didn't indicate the impulse when at the start, like there was a couple of slides in, you talked about rate of force development,
Yeah.
about the angle of the slope didn't, and my question is, in what situations would that decouple?
So the angle of the slope, that's what rate of force development is, the angle of the slope. The problem is, it doesn't matter. It's the impulse under the curve. So basically, let's say the angle of the slope doesn't change, but the action I was doing goes from 0.2 to 0.25. I've created more impulse. Oh, that's not what I want. I want to create more impulse by going from 0.2 to 0.15. So that's when you start going, then the angle must become more vertical. So you've got a higher rate of force development. So it's not me saying that I've got an issue with rate of force development. It's the measure isn't exact. Its impulse is the real measure, if you see what I mean.
So it's more a statement of it's less important, you should focus more on impulse rather than
Exactly.
time duration.
Exactly. So it's that time into, because if you say 0.2 is the magic number, for what? For a change of direction? For acceleration? For max velocity? That time integral changes for whatever action you're trying to do. And it's that time integral that's key to your sport that you need to actually look at.
Yeah, I think that 0.2 is just the cutoff, like it's on the force platform.
It's 0.21, you're slow. It's 0.2, you're fast. Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Cool. Right. Good. Well, have a play with it, guys. Seriously, as I say, you don't have to use that app. It's just, I know for £5 you can get that app, and it measures 2 times, and that's why don't worry about what it's telling you. Use it as a timing device. If you've got another timing device that's just as accurate, use that. You can develop your own. I've used back squat. Oh, we don't use a big back squat we use trap bar deadlift. Then measure trap bar deadlift. It's just a big, slow, whole body movement. Oh, we like to do a standing long jump rather than a counter movement jump. Great, measure the standing long jump as your slow stretch shortening cycle, because that fits in your program. It doesn't matter what it is you're looking at.
Could be sport specific. So, say if you're a long jumping,
Yeah,
more interested in horizontal projection.
use that. If you know it's something they reproduce on a regular basis, then measure their takeoff from the board as their fast stretch shortening cycle rather than a drop jump. Great, because then it's directly linked to what their performance is. Okay? But what you've got to think is, can they reproduce it every single time? So it has to be something they do in their training on a regular basis, or they do as their sport at a regular basis, so that they can actually, their technique is pretty solid. It's not changing week after week. So if you never do back squat, and then, except when you test, well then that's pointless using it. Yeah? Cool. Right, guys. Lovely to meet you all.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, play with it, try it, see if it gives you more information, because that's the important thing. It's knowing, what do I need to do with this lot next month? Rather than, I've just changed it because the book says I should go from strength to strength speed. Well, really? For all 30 of them? Everyone's adapting differently. Everyone needs slight changes in their program.